Have you ever heard of a plague where people didn't cough or faint or waste away, but instead they danced? Yes, in the summer of 1518, in the city of Strasbourg, hundreds of people were struck by a strange and terrifying compulsion. They danced day and night until their bodies gave out. Some even danced themselves to death. It sounds like a legend, but it's true. And tonight, we are diving into one of history's strangest mysteries, the dancing plague of 1518. Stay with me, because what starts with one woman stepping into the street soon becomes a story of fear, faith, and the fragile line between mind and body. Imagine this. It's July 1518. The city of Strasbourg, back then part of the Holy Roman Empire, today in France, suddenly falls victim to a bizarre mania. People begin dancing, and they cannot stop. It starts with one woman. Her name is remembered as Frau Trophia. One day she steps into the street and begins to sway, twirl, and shuffle. No music, no festival, just movement. Hours pass, then days. She simply cannot control herself. And then, others join her. Within a week, dozens are caught up in the same frenzy. Men, women, young, old, hopping, spinning, collapsing, even as their feet blister and bleed. Still, they keep going. Soon, crowds watch in shock as more and more citizens fall into this compulsive dance. Their eyes vacant, limbs jerking, sweat soaking their clothes, blood filling their shoes. Some scream for help as they dance. Others appear almost possessed. City leaders panic. What is happening? Local physicians and clergymen are called in. No one has seen anything like it. Doctors believe the dancers suffer from overheated blood. Too much heat in the body, forcing them into feverish compulsions. Their cure? More dancing. Yes, they actually prescribe music and movement to burn off the sickness. Authorities build a stage. They hire musicians. They even pay dancers to keep the afflicted moving. But this cure backfires. Instead of stopping, the frenzy spreads like wildfire. By midsummer, nearly 400 people are dancing in Strasbourg's streets, day and night. Some collapse from exhaustion. Some die from strokes or heart failure, their bodies simply unable to take the relentless movement. Finally, officials admit the cure has failed. They ban music. They shut down dancing. They turn instead to prayer. By September, 2 long months after it began, the plague fades. The last dancers are taken to a shrine dedicated to Saint Vitus, where they pray and receive blessings. Only then does the mania finally end. This remains the best documented outbreak of what history calls dancing mania, and it stands as one of the strangest, most haunting spectacles of the age.
So, what on earth happened?
Back in 1518, people believed the dancers were cursed. Many thought Saint Vitus himself had punished them for sin. Clergy called it possession. The cure? Pilgrimages, prayers, and rituals to appease the saint. Doctors had a different view. They spoke of hot blood, too much internal heat. Their logic was simple. If the body demanded movement, let it dance itself to exhaustion. We now know that only made things worse. Centuries later, scientists began to propose new explanations. One theory blamed ergot poisoning, the same toxic fungus that can grow on rye bread. It can cause spasms, hallucinations, even madness. But here's the problem. Ergot usually makes people weak, sick, and unable to move. It doesn't explain how hundreds could dance for days without stopping. Others suggested cult activity, maybe a religious sect engaging in ecstatic dance rituals, or perhaps mental illness. Paracelsus even speculated that Frau Trophia started dancing just to annoy her husband. But evidence for these theories is thin at best. The most widely accepted explanation today? Mass hysteria, or what doctors now call mass psychogenic illness. Historian John Waller points out that Strasbourg in 1518 was a city in crisis. Famine, disease, political turmoil. People were stressed, starving, and deeply superstitious. Many believed Saint Vitus could curse sinners with uncontrollable dancing. So when one person started, others, primed by fear and belief, literally danced their anxieties into reality. It was a collective trance, a psychological epidemic. Fear and stress manifested in bodies moving without rest. In other words, their minds and culture made it real. The dancing plague, Waller argues, was not about poison or disease. It was about people pushed to their limits, their fears made physical. The dancing plague of 1518 didn't just end in Strasbourg. It left behind a legacy that still fascinates us today. Historians call it one of the best documented cases of dancing mania. Chroniclers, sermons, and city records all describe the frightening spectacle of Saint Vitus's dance. It became a textbook example of mass hysteria, a case study in how fear and belief can sweep through entire communities. Over time, the term dancing mania became linked to this and similar outbreaks. Later, even certain medical conditions, like Sydenham's chorea, were nicknamed Saint Vitus's dance, though they had no real connection to Strasbourg's frenzy. Scholars today see the 1518 outbreak as a reminder of how stress, fear, and expectation can literally move people in unison. How the mind and body can turn belief into action, and action into illness. But the story hasn't stayed locked in the past. It continues to inspire artists, musicians, and filmmakers. In 2020, director Jonathan Glazer created a short film called Strasbourg 1518. Filmed during the COVID-19 lockdown, it showed dancers in wild, involuntary movement, echoing the compulsive frenzy of that summer centuries ago. Music has also drawn from it. Florence and the Machine released a song called Choreomania on their 2022 album Dance Fever. The title itself nods to the plague. Singer Florence Welch described being fascinated by the image of people compelled to dance, unable to stop. Writers, too, have found inspiration. Gareth Brooks created a graphic novel called The Dancing Plague, using woodcut-style illustrations to capture the terror and mystery. And novelist Kieran Millwood Hargrave's The Dance Tree places women of Strasbourg at the center of the story, weaving fact with imagination. 5 centuries later, the dancing plague has become more than a historical oddity. It's a cultural metaphor, a warning of how fragile we are when fear, stress, and belief collide. Imagine hundreds of people dancing until they collapse, their bodies driven by forces they didn't understand. It may sound unbelievable, but it happened. And it reminds us that the human mind, when burdened by fear and belief, can make the impossible real. The summer of 1518 still whispers a warning across time, that sometimes the scariest epidemics don't come from disease, but from within us. And so, the summer of 1518 finally ended. The dances stopped. The streets fell quiet again, but the mystery remained. Was it disease? A curse? poison, or the power of belief taking hold of hundreds of minds at once? Five centuries later, we still don't have a clear answer. What we do know is this: the human mind can be as contagious as any plague. Fear spreads, belief spreads, and sometimes movement spreads too. The dancing plague reminds us that history isn't just about battles and kings. It's also about the mysteries inside us. The moments when stress, fear, and faith turn into something beyond our control. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. And let me know in the comments, do you think the dancers were cursed or caught in a spell of their own making? Until next time, thank you for watching. And remember, history is full of stories stranger than fiction.